Hey friends, Mary here from Garden Adventures, and today I am really excited to walk you through my 2023 seed starting schedule and explain to you how I got here because it took a little bit of gathering information, finding out things. So I want to share all that with you and take a look at the schedule. I am a home gardener in Zone 6B, Niagara Falls, New York, and this year I have a goal of creating 5 to 10 bouquets per week. I'm really trying to maximize my space. I do garden on a postage stamp sized garden. And because my garden is small and I have goals that I want to accomplish, I really need to be thoughtful about when I'm planting things, when I'm succession planting things, and what plants I'm putting in the ground. So here are a few questions I asked myself before I even got started. The first, what is my hardiness zone? For me, it's 6B. When is my last expected frost date in the spring? And my date is May 7th. When is my first expected frost date in the fall? And for me, that is October 19th. So I took those dates, plotted them out, and worked backwards from there. The other thing I had to ask myself was, what types of seeds do I want to be starting? Am I starting perennials, things that require a cold, moist stratification period? Am I starting hardy annuals, or am I starting warm season tender annuals? Cold season hardy annuals do require slightly different conditions. They prefer to germinate and grow on in cooler temperatures. So I needed to start some of those in the fall. I'll need to start some of those earlier in the season. Warm season tender annuals, as their name predicts, they don't really care for frost or cool conditions. They like the heat of the summer. As I was planning, I realized that my high temperatures also impact which seeds I can start when. So even in the heat of the summer, we don't usually get more than a week of temperatures in the 90s. I know, and that's rare for my area. I know other areas of the country experience many, many weeks of temperatures above 90 degrees, but not here. So our high temperatures in the 90s only last, maybe we get one day here and one day there, or an extended period of 3 or 4 days. It is not weeks and weeks on end. So my cool season hardy annuals do tend to last longer. And if I plant them in the right shade location, I can get them to last throughout the summer. Fingers crossed. So take that into consideration for yourself. A question you may want to ask yourself is, what is your goal in starting seeds? Are you looking to have an event over the summer that you want a lot of blooms all at one time? Or are you looking to have one or two bouquets throughout the summer that you can cut for yourself and maybe share one with a friend? So, look at the reasons and the types of flowers you're interested in growing. Looking at the seed packets is important to know if it's a perennial that requires cold, moist stratification, or if it's an annual that prefers a temperature of 75 to 80 degrees to germinate. That will help you determine if it is a warm season tender annual or a cool season hardy annual. So I started using all those factors and started working backwards on my plan. Friends, I would love to know what varieties you're starting this year. Are you trying something new, or are you sticking with your tried and true varieties? Drop me a note below and let me know. I have not done a schedule like this previously, and so I've gone through a few iterations. As you can see, I have some information here. I started low tech. I have a free calendar that came in the mail and a $1 notebook. That's what I started with. What I did was number each week on the calendar, and I'll take a picture and put it up now. But started with 1 through 52, easy as that. And so now anytime I reference when a seed needs to be started, it's within that week, because I don't want to be tied to a day specifically. Somewhere within that week, if I get to it early the next week, if it's week 1 and I get to it on the following Sunday, life goes on. I'll be okay. On the calendar, I included my last estimated frost date, or my average last frost, and that is around May 7th. And then I can build backwards from there. So for cool season hardy annuals, I want to plant those out approximately 6 to 8 weeks prior to that date. So that gives me week 11 on the calendar. And from there, I look at the seed packets to determine when I need to start them. So I'm planting them out on week 11. If we back that up, I should be starting them around week 3. So somewhere around January 15th that week is when I need to be starting snapdragons. Warm season tender annuals shouldn't be started until after the risk of frost has passed. So for me, my average last frost date lands on week 19. So that is my target for planting. I may, push the envelope a little bit because I am prepared to cover them with floating row cover if necessary, if there is a late frost that was unexpected. So knowing your last frost date, what week are you planning to plant them out? And again, read the seed packets. Are they at all tolerant of lower temperatures? And that will give you an idea of when you can plant them out. Sunflowers are a warm season tender annual. They might be able to take a little bit of frost. So I do anticipate planting those like the last week of April out. So I'm going to start them indoors somewhere around April 9th. 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I'll be planting them outside. All of this transplanting out definitely depends on weather. If we have a frost anticipated, I am not going to plant out. So that's, the starting point of how you determine when to start things. So that is how I started. This was my low tech version. And the reason that I love this low tech version is because these are all of my iterations of this project. I wasn't sure how to categorize things. I wanted to go through the seeds. I wanted to somehow have a category. I didn't just want a list of alphabetical seeds. So all of that said, using pen and paper allowed me to just rip the page out and start again. There was no muss, no fuss. I didn't have to really have a solid plan in place before I just started writing things down. Where I started was I took my box of seeds, looked through every single one, and categorized them. My 3 categories were winter sown, cool flowers, and warm season tender annuals. My winter sown list is the longest. I think I put everything that could be winter sown in that list. I don't know. It's definitely a list of things that I would like to winter sow. And then the things in the cool flowers are things I know I want to start indoors. And the warm season tender annuals, again, things I know I want to start indoors. So that's where that list came from. And then from there, I started kind of writing them out in the order that I want to start them. So I had started with cool season and started plotting out based on the seed packets when I need to start them indoors, and then interspersing the winter sowing stuff that I have. For this video, I really want to focus on the cut flower garden because that's really where my indoor seed starting schedule is more important. I'm trying to get things on a schedule so that I can have continuous cut flowers from as early as possible through as late as possible. That's where the schedule came from. I'm really trying to be thoughtful about what I'm planting and how many I need. Some of the information that I tried to look up was how many stems can you get from one plant? So the cut and come again varieties. And that's really hard information to find. I know a lot of people said to succession plant zinnias every 3 to 4 weeks, and to try to succession sow your snapdragons and try the different numbers of snapdragons because they some do better in hotter weather. Because I can't find information on how many stems one snapdragon plant will give me. But if I need 2 to 3 stems of snapdragon per bouquet in the spring, in the fall, and I want to make 5 bouquets, that's 15 stems per week. So I need a lot of snapdragon plants to produce that many stems. So you guys get the idea of where I'm going with the planning process. So all I did was write down, 2023 schedule, seed starting. I, kind of am hitting the highlights at this point, and I will fill in as I go and kind of fine tune what I'm starting when. But for now, week 1, Lysianthus. Week 3, Snapdragon, Stock, Scabiosa, Straw Flowers. That's going to be indoors. Week 4, I'm doing, the next week, I'm going to plant out winter sowing method, tomatoes and peppers. Again, I'm going to experiment. So we're going to try tomatoes in multiple ways and see how they do. So week 4, tomatoes outside. Week 5, we're going to winter sow phlox. Week 6, I'm going to start lavender and straw flowers in winter sowing. And I'm going to do a succession of snapdragons because, as I said, my temperatures don't get super warm here in the summer. So if I plant snapdragons in the right location where they're slightly protected from the sun, I think I'll get snaps to grow all summer long. So we're trying. And I need a lot of them to make bouquets. And then week 7, I'm going to, again, winter sow tomatoes and peppers to see when is the best time. So is it January winter sowing? Is it February winter sowing? And then weeks 8 through 10, I'm going to continue winter sowing all of the plants that I have on my list. And I will write out a schedule just for winter sowing. Week 11, I'm going to plant out my cool season hardy annuals into my prepared flower bed. That's the plan. I'm going to soak and plant my ranunculus and plant that out. Hopefully my Lysianthus is ready. So that's all week 11, and that's going to be a busy week. There are definitely weeks that are heavier than others. Week 11 is a big one. Then week 12, I'm going to start my tender annuals indoors. So gomphrena, coleus, and basil. I'm also going to start peppers and tomatoes indoors at that time. Again, I'm not planting a ton of these. I'm just experimenting with some of the tomatoes and the peppers. I don't need 600 pepper plants. I'm just going to try them in different locations and see which does the best. Okay, and then week 14, I'm going to start my zinnia seeds. Week 15, I'm starting sunflowers, and each and every single week, I am going to start 6 Horizon Pro Cut sunflowers and 6 Orange Pro Cut sunflowers every single week for 20 weeks. So I have written down week 15 through 35, I'm starting sunflowers. So 12 sunflowers every single week. It'll be a constant rotation at that point. Once I start planting them outside and they start blooming every single week, I need to cut 12 sunflowers. Now they may not all make it. I have squirrels, I have voles, I have things that may eat the sunflower heads off before I can harvest, but my goal is to get, around 10 sunflowers every single week. Week 18, I am going to plant out my tender annuals. I am going to start a succession of zinnias indoors and asters. Zinnias and asters indoors. I'm going to plant out my dahlia tubers. I'm going to plant my gladiolus bulbs. Then weeks 19 through 30, I have to write out a schedule of successions. And I am working on, I do have them in one place, and I need to, make sure that it's a solid plan. And then week 30, I start my cool season hardy annuals indoors. So while I'm still succession planting my tender annuals, I'm going to be starting my cool season hardy annuals indoors. And then week 36 to 38, somewhere in that range, I'm going to plant my cool season plants outdoors. And I am going to direct sow any cool flowers that need to be direct sowed outdoors as well. So that kind of takes us that full cycle, and then I will continue to harvest until I have no more flowers to harvest. And somewhere in there, I need to write that down. By the end of October, I need to have the cool season flower bed prepped for this very early spring. And I need to plant my bulbs in the ground by December 1st. That's the goal, to have everything purchased and planted by December 1st. This year, you guys may have seen my video, I got a little behind on bulb planting because we did have such an extended fall season that I kind of got behind, and I bought more tulips because it was so nice out. So I bought more tulip bulbs, but we'll see. So I hope that gives you an idea of like where to start with planning using your seed packets. At the beginning, I asked you to find your hardiness zone. And the reason you need that is if you're planning to plant cool season hardy annuals in the fall that are going to be overwintered, you do need to know your hardiness zone. That will tell you what type of cool flowers you can plant in the fall so that they can be ready in the spring. So for me, snapdragons, rudbeckia, nigella, calendula, bupleurum, those are all things that are hardy in my 6B zone that I can fall plant, or that I'm willing to fall plant and get started for the next year. The one thing I do need to write down is that I would like to start some Sweet William this year. The one I would like to start, I think, is Electron, and that one you need to start early. Like it needs to get started in like July through, and then it'll overwinter and you'll have blooms in the spring. Now that I kind of have an idea of how I wanted to categorize things, leads me into the next version. Okay, so the other place that I'm keeping some of this information is on my laptop. So I have a spreadsheet that includes the name of the flower, days to germination, week that I want to start it, whether I'm winter sowing or doing plug trays, if it can be direct sown, the spacing, the week I want to plant it outside, days to bloom, first bloom date. So let me show you that really quick. Now this schedule was developed with a little help. So Nicole from Flower Hill Farm shared a Google Doc last year as she walked through her 2022 schedule. And I did use parts of that, as well as Laura from Garden Answer when she was cataloging her seeds. So I combined some of those elements and came up with what I have now. So this is just a start on my seed planning, and I hope it's off to a good start. At least the first 2 months are really well planned out. From there, I will continue to build out the schedule throughout the year. So I have major dates on the schedule, but I'm going to fill in with information. And the other thing I need to do is fill in the blanks for myself. All that information that I wasn't able to find, I guess I need to build on my own. So I'm going to have to track a few things. So the things I would like to keep track of so that I can plug them into the spreadsheet for myself are my first bloom and the number of stems I'm harvesting per week, as well as the number of stems I get from a particular plant in each variety. So I'd like to track snapdragons and zinnias. And then there are a few things I'd like to keep track of in terms of the dollars spent and the investment of time into the bouquet making process. So what I need to do is to really track a lot of that information to know, is this something worthwhile to do? Is it something just fun to do? I don't mind tracking the information. It's good information, and maybe it will benefit some of you, and we can together get better at our planning process. So I think tracking a lot of that. The next thing I want to track are all the places I got seeds and how much I've spent on seeds this year. It's not a ton. I mean, I still have a lot of free seeds. I have seeds left over from last year, and I did buy some new seeds. So the new seed is what I want to track for this year at least. And so I want to track my time in seed starting, in planting, and bouquet making to get a really good idea of, how much is being spent on one bouquet. So if I do decide to sell bouquets in the future, I have a really good idea of what goes into each bouquet. So from the seed cost to my time the materials to actually, make a bouquet and the flower food and all that, so that there's a really good record of, what's going into a bouquet. All right, guys, that was a lot of information, and I hope this helped you and at least get you thinking about your seed starting plan. Maybe just scribble some things on a calendar. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it.